You have to know before you can inform somebody about anything in life. And that is why, to further deepen the knowledge of journalists, particularly those who cover environmental issues, on issues around wildlife trafficking, the laws that prohibit wildlife trafficking, both national and global treaty, of course, the inherent danger in consuming bushmeat, for instance, if you like to eat bushmeat. This is why journalists from all over the world were brought together in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, by the Wildlife Conservation Society to train them on better ways of reporting these issues and how to make the desired impact. Let's bring you details from that training.
Trafficking department. And anybody.
A range of interactive sessions, presentations, and practical exercises aimed at deepening the knowledge of investigative environmental journalists to enable them carry out in-depth reporting on wildlife crime, the laws, regulations, and enforcement mechanisms that govern wildlife trade in Nigeria, as well as the socio-economic factors that drive such activities.
There are many problems associated. One of them is the lack of awareness. So people don't really know that Nigeria is such an important hub for illegal wildlife trade. So part of the reason for inviting the journalists is to spread this awareness, and maybe we can put some pressure and raise awareness with government to begin to tackle that problem. For the central role that journalists play in Nigeria to try and change local attitudes to wildlife and to the environment. So we're hoping by bringing the key environmental journalists together in one place over 2 days, we can come up with some recommendations about how to do things differently, because I think the messages are there, they're just not getting through. They're not getting through to government, they're not getting through to the people to take decisions in Nigeria. That's what we want to happen.
The truth is lack of awareness. I want to emphasize more on lack of awareness. You know, the people voice is people's power. When people voice it in one unity, and the major decision makers or the legislators hear more about it from their people, they will be able to take it up. So we don't want to engage only in the legislators this time around. It is a call for everyone to get involved, to understand that if we did not take action on these things, tomorrow our children will only see the pictures of these wild animals and they will not be able to see them alive. So our concern is to engage the people, a common man at the rural community, to understand that this thing is illegal, or this illegal wildlife trafficking is an organized crime, and I need to report. I have a responsibility to report as well. From there, the government will now have a very good support from the members of the public to ensure that they have strengthened the laws for a better illegal wildlife trafficking sanctions for those that are involved.
Described as an organized crime, records by Wildlife Conservation Society estimates that illegal wildlife trade around the world amounts to over 20 billion US dollars annually, trailing the trafficking of narcotics, weapons, and humans in terms of profit. Yet, it has continued unabated in Nigeria due to identified gaps in law enforcement, which allows it to thrive.
Yes, it's been a problem. So we're working with Bauchi State Government to try and protect Yankari Game Reserve better, and a number of arrest poachers are arrested each year, but we've begun to realise that the same poachers keep coming back. Every month you keep arresting the same guys, and it's obvious that really the courts, they're sentencing somebody, but he's walking out of the back door, unfortunately, and then just continuing the same activity. So it's quite frustrating because
the workshop was indeed an eye-opener for the participants.
So I'm looking at a situation where I'll, hone my skills better when it comes to counter wildlife trafficking and reporting activities surrounding, illegal wildlife trafficking, as well as another level of it, which is advocacy. Of course, most times media reportage, people believe it's only about passing information, but the information you're passing, is it really is it really understood by the audience? To which audience are you passing this information to?
It's left for us journalists to devise ways to create awareness different from what we've been doing in the past. Because if we've been reporting these issues over the years and it's still there, it's time for us to change angles, to find new ways of doing the stories, so that both those in the office, the authorities, both the government, politicians, and common man would understand why it is important for us to conserve our biodiversity and ensure that we leave certain species.
I expect to broaden my knowledge, in environmental reporting. I've been doing this for about 3 years plus now, and it has opened my eyes to a lot of things that people do not know or not aware of. For instance, when I first entered into the environment, I felt, okay, the environment is just typically any of the stories you can report, but it's much more than that. Some things that people do not understand, it gives me the opportunity to tell them. And in wildlife conservation, you have so many things to talk about. You have the animals, you have the forests, and many things people do not know and people take for granted. In this training workshop, I expect to learn more. Although I have a little bit of an understanding of what conservation is all about, but in this workshop affords me the opportunity to understand how much more level I can go to inform, create more awareness, so people get to understand what we can do to protect our environment in the wildlife space. So if we do not know we do not see the value of these animals, we will end up, losing the value that we will get. Bush meat is also part of it. People eat it. Pangolin is a usual delicacy. They feel that, okay, if they eat pangolin, it's still there in the wild now. But when you get to understand that these animals, pangolin, just one pangolin will give birth to a baby one baby, one in 18 months. So if you keep eating pangolin, you will not even see pangolin. And that means at the end of the day, we'll end up telling our children, we see open storybooks. This is what a pangolin looks like. They will not have to see it in real life.
This training for investigative journalists was organized by the Wildlife Conservation Society with support from the U.S. Aid on Watershed Protection for Safe and Sustainable Water Supply in Bauchi and Cross River states.